So I think ultimately it's about, as I mentioned in my story, like you got to build sweat equity. What I mean right now is you have 100 or 50% of effectively nothing. And you need to show something, whether it's an MVP, whether it's some growth, some initial traction. And this is very typical, but you have to show it, because, at the end of the day, 1% I think it was 1% total company get funded. So I'd say put in some your own sweat equity. Make that equity valuable by adding IP or something beyond, before just, assuming I have an idea, a napkin. You need to put on your own savings that you've done in your previous works or jobs, unless you're a student, in which case get a grant, get some innovation from your faculty, or go to accelerator if you're a different age. If you've got no experience, you need to understand your own circumstances as well. So here's about building your own sweat equity a lot of the time, because I've met many, because I've invested, I've advised a lot of SaaS businesses and so forth, and a lot of them will want to get investment before, napkin of an idea, in which case, your chance is not 1% anymore, they're 0.1. So to increase the chances of success. Sorry?
Especially in today's market, for sure.
Oh, I honestly, I totally agree. Things are, I guess, maybe picking up in the future, but right now you need more than sweat equity or just an IP. They want to see numbers that this is closer, to de-risk your opportunity there. So I would really say you have to put even more work now. And now all of a sudden, Bootstrap is not becoming something just cool. It's a necessity, because you're showing as a business at minimal, not just capital, but resources, you can get revenue, right? And most people get VC money because they can grow what's already working faster. So then it becomes about speed. So I would say just sweat equity. And I don't mean in the sense where you just don't get equity. I mean, you got to put in the work hard and build an MVP. If you can't build it, get a CTO. If you can go and get a CTO, go to an accelerator, match yourself up. Or learn how to code, basically. So that would be my first one, is really around, it's a bit more philosophical, but sweat equity.
Yeah.
The next one, to increase, again, sort of the theme of chances of success, is make sure you've worked in a startup before. A lot of people here, when I talk, a lot of folks, they come from a corporate background sometimes. I'm like, you're about to enter. Do you know what you're going to go through right now, dude? Like, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different journey, and so either you have to work for a startup, or at least at minimum be a domain expert in the problem that you're going to solve. In my case, I was solving my own problem. There's no better person that really knows the core of the problem, the details, than your experience yourself, versus trying to solve someone else's problem, because you might not have been through the same experience. So the next one, really, it's about experience, either in startups or your industry, because even if you get the money, you're still going to have to work hard and make it a success. You don't want to work 5 years, end up shut down the business and getting just experience. Like, yes, it's valuable, but it's not easy, because the failure rates are still high. So I think to increase the success rate is really focus on working either in a startup before you do it, work on a side perhaps, but work in a startup, or really, really ideally in an industry that you're about to go into. So that's number 2, perhaps. And I think next, it's about most people should not get stuck into one experiment. Before I landed and realizing Facebook groups are going to be an initial channel of traction, there were a huge amounts of experimentation across different channels, different unconventional things that you don't even think of, whether it's Reddit or you're trying to do try a particular ad set that's going to work, but it's not yielding, or you want to try something else. I think most people is really experiment like wildfire, because at least at the beginning, you can prove that this channel has enough volume to grow into. If you were to go into that pool and say, great, I got one customer there, but there's a lot more, for example, then if you use that statistical data to your investors, okay, actually, I can see that this money is going to be used to pull more of that fish of that pond, for example, right? Ultimately, or it's a lake, even better. If it's an ocean, then it's a different story. So I think first just experiment to find that channel that will get you the first customers. Because if you say how are you going to get customers you don't know, you're going to struggle to raise that money.
Absolutely.
That's what we did. Huge amounts, even with Vision from a product perspective. MVP when we raised, I think, the Vision over 1.3 million with Gianluca. So, and now I think over time you kind of learn. And I think the next one is just about the further understanding unit economics. Like not everybody comes from a finance background, but if you need to understand pricing strategies. You need to understand CAC, retention, churn. If you're on SaaS, I appreciate everybody is in different fields, but do you know your unit economics from top, middle, and lower of the funnel process? I'm not talking just marketing terms. I'm talking about payback periods. If you invest in this, when do you expect to be back if it's a recurring business? So I think these statistics you need to learn at minimum to be able to go to investors and say, this is how I'm going to be making you money. You raise maybe 100K or $1 million at least. What are you going to do with that money? How are we going to allocate resources? So put yourself as a fund manager, right? Because it's a CEO. You ultimately, apart from strategy and other things, you become a fund manager. You have to allocate resources to the right channels, to the right people in order to increase revenues, perhaps, So I think the tip here is if you don't know your statistics top of the funnel, either get advisors. There's a growth mentor and a lot of advisors out there that can teach you how to do that. Be teach yourself all these statistics, or ultimately, if you don't do any of these, your investors, you're going to end up burning through leads because you got a meeting. Someone loves your idea, but they don't think you cut out because you don't have, do you know what EBITDA and OPEX mean? Like of your cash flow statement? I'll be honest. In my early days, in my 3-4 ventures, I didn't know. I did obviously business law and business finance, but it's different in practice. And you don't know how to really ultimately apply it. So I learned huge amounts over the years, now onto a point where it's second nature. So I'd say really understand your unit economics end to end, both from marketing all the way to finance and ops. And a final one, really, I think I think comes in resilience. Most people, I come from a background where I bootstrapped all these businesses over the last 12 years. And to come after 10 MVPs and still not make a dime takes a crazy mofo to get it done. I'm not going to swear, but ultimately you have to have a level of love for technology, in my case, love for what you're doing to actually make it work. So I think perseverance, even for investors, meaning that just because you haven't got to respond to a meeting after 6 months, after 1,000 people, and you got a great idea, but you do need that few million to really push it, you keep going for another year, ultimately. So I think here is just about eventually you'll find the right fit investors based on who they've invested in the past and using the right tech to automate a lot of that, because it takes a lot of hard work and the right data set to make it work. So we've had many people even use Salesflow or other tools, by the way, in the market to try and scale that to increase the chances of success. Since the 5 tips here is actually how do you increase the chance of success both in fundraising but also for your business initially as a bootstrap.